super throwback September.
September.
Super throwback September. I don't know what the fuck that is, but it just sounded like with this special
Super throwback.
throwback. You know, like
September,
we need like an awesome like DJ drop for this. I don't know why. Welcome back to Super Throwback to the Classics, the cinematic movie podcast that takes you back to the iconic films of 20 years ago and beyond, right here on the Big Three: iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Spotify. I am your guy, Jay Alonzo. With me, of course, is
Danger Neff, David Danger Neff. How you doing, partner?
Dude, we are now officially kicking off Super Throwback September.
I'm beyond excited for this.
And the point of it all is to make you feel as 90s as possible.
Right. So let's be a little bit fair. So what is a 90s movie? Like we all know we every time you watch a movie and you're like, "Oh, I really want to see like an 80s movie." Like, what's an 80s movie? And so, you'll say stuff like Say Anything or Weird Science or something like that.
Right.
And it's something that has a ludicrous plot, right? Mm-hmm. That gets a little bit sillier, and they find a way to kind of make it up at the end of the day.
What 90s does, at least for me, what 90s movies do for me is it's almost the same thing. You got this almost a ridiculous plot, all over the top writing, but it represents a moment in time that is locked in this box of time that you can't go back to those times, but you can definitely pull that stuff out the box.
Right.
Be like, I remember when pages were a thing.
Right.
I remember when cross colors was a thing. I remember when big brick cell phones were a thing,
So a 90s movie, there's a lot of qualities to 90s movies, and it's funny because obviously that's all we've talked about with Back to the Classics is movies from the 90s because, we take it back 20 years ago. But 90s movies has
we're going to the 2000s.
We're going into the 2000s, baby.
Man.
We're actually changing a decade, guys.
Oh, man.
But a 90s movie has a couple of qualities that I always think of. First of all, like one of the most classic ways to kind of do a 90s movie is that they do this thing where they do product placement, but they're not trying to do product placement, but it's absolutely there.
It's subtle, but it's in your face, though.
Like Wayne's World does a fantastic bit where they basically go like a minute out of the entire runtime of the movie where they're just basically talking about product placement. But they're like, yeah, if we were getting advertising dollars from Pepsi, and just doing all that. And so it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But that is something that's so prominent in 90s movies. Rookie of the Year is a very good example of that.
Oh, any movie that has a police station scene has some sort of a Coca-Cola vending machine somewhere around there, and it was subtle. It was always played subtle, but it's always in your face. Like it's there when it's there.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then other things that were with it. There's like. It's funny because we think about like, all right, a good example is like Good Burger.
Yes.
We tie that back to a TV show, and while they had that in the 80s, it wasn't nearly as prominent as it would get like later on in the future, obviously.
Right.
But like, there's so much with it. Here's a good example of a 90s movie. You know how they used to kind of make like the movie Hackers? Mm-hmm. And they try to make it seem like cybersecurity is all supposed to be, and they try to make it like super like extreme and cool and whatnot. And so like, bro, you all know you're on dial-up right now,
right? What you're bringing up doesn't really happen for like another good while.
Every 90s movie has like that hacker supporting character,
yeah,
right? Or skaters and surfers, mm-hmm. like that that just rings 90s to me. And especially like surfers, because that's just that, the cool bro, that was all 90s for me.
Listen, 90s just represents a time when things were simple at the same time, quite complicated, but at the same time, it was something that, take Friday, for example. Friday was a simple movie about two guys on a day of the week. Basically, you're basically going through this this day in the life of people who just this could be any one of us going through this wild day, because it's the beginning of the weekend. It's fucking Friday.
Right.
So anything can happen on a Friday. So I love the fact that something as simple as of a concept of Friday, or furthermore, let's say like a Bad Boys or the movie we're talking about today. As big and boisterous as it's gonna be, it's so simple, and it doesn't require too much. It's thought provoking, but it's not. You're not required to do your homework and really gotta dig deep, unless it's one of those movies where you really have to like think about it.
The other, there's two other qualities in my eyes that makes a 90s movie a 90s movie. And the first one is something that's actually going to relate a lot to the movie here, is natural disasters. How many natural disaster movies came out in the 90s? From Twister, you had Volcano, you had Dante's Peak. You just had all this like stupid Deep Impact, Armageddon. Everything had to deal with either environmental awareness.
And some came out in the same year.
Right. And environmental awareness, or had to deal with disaster and disaster things.
Right.
But the number one thing in my eyes, that makes a 90s movie and not a 90s movie, is the voice of God himself, Don LaFontaine. In a world where the world is completely underwater.
Listen, if that guy can narrate my life, that'd be fantastic.
It would either...
Today, Julian woke up.
He was on Booty Call. He actually was a voice on Booty Call.
In a world.
Of all things. In a world.
When you start anything within the world, it's gonna be some deep shit.
Right, exactly.
I know it.
And in my eyes, that's when you know you're watching a 90s movie.
In a world where... Is he alive?
No, he died. He died several years ago.
Oh man, rest in peace, man.
Right, but every time I think of like the 90s,
trailer wasn't a trailer without that guy's voice.
Exactly, he was in every fucking trailer. Also,
when you realize the time is running out. Oh my god, what's gonna happen next? Shit. All right, so
he hyped up the movie. So he was the Flavor Flav of 90s movies.
Flavor
Flav.
How was your week, man?
Day 15 of Infinity, bro. Yeah.
Shit. How was your Labor Day?
I worked.
You worked? Oh.
You know what? I got off an hour early, so I kind of had home and kind of started, figuring out the show a little bit and other projects that we got coming up. And
good stuff.
Some
good stuff.
You ready to plug some beat stuff?
Well, my weekend was great.
Oh, yeah,
no, it wasn't. I'm not gonna lie. It was. I spent the majority.
Well, you watched a whole bunch of movies.
Yeah, I spent the majority of the weekend kind of catch up on movies that I hadn't seen yet, so we can finally get our top 10 best of worst of the year put together. But
I'm a long ways away from putting that list together.
Oh man, I can tell you right now, I saw a few things. Yeah.
Would you say more on the best list or more on the worst list?
Here's my thing. When I do my list, I do a best movie candidate, I do a worst movie candidate, and it's the movie I just saw. Right. So what I saw this weekend was primarily the movie I just saw, but I did come across a few that would. Oh yeah, that definitely qualifies for a worst movie candidate for sure. But above all else, though. Relatively quiet weekend, Labor Day. Happy Labor Day to all the Cinema folks out there. Hope you guys had an awesome day.
Happy Labor Day to all our military, firefighters,
Absolutely.
EMTs, police officers. Yes, even though we're a black podcast, police officers definitely.
Yeah,
they've been keeping the streets safe, at least in my neighborhood.
Yeah, take it. Yeah, take it. So with that being said, before we get into our first. Can't call it annual, but our first movie of Super Throwback September. Let's do some plugs, man. What you got?
So, first and foremost, for those of you in the Las Vegas area who are looking to get into the podcast game, or wish to record a music video, or wish to record a video podcast, or anything along those lines, Beat Network Studios or Beat Studios is the place for you to go. We are opening up our own studio. We opened up our own studio here. That has 4 mics here, a couch, some good cush, everything that you could possibly need.
Good cush.
Good cush, yeah. Everything that you could possibly need to have that day to do so. Please check out beatnetworkonline.com and look for Beat Studios. Beat Studios for your booking concerns.
Absolutely.
All right, brother, what else we got?
What's another plug we got going on?
What else? Oh, wait, no, that's the only plug.
Well,
no, because the last plug that we had was Super Throwback.
Right. Okay. So
hey, we're on Super Throwback. Hey, listen to us in September, guys.
So this is what we'll do. This is what we'll do. So thank you guys so much for rocking with this Super Throwback September. We have some awesome movies coming up, man, for this month. I will say this though, we are cooking up some stuff. Myself, Dave,
the boys from the noise.
The boys from the noise. We're definitely cooking up some stuff. September is looking to be a very, very awesome month for.
It's going to be a lot of fun
for Beat Network.
Yeah, for sure.
And with what me and Dave got going on, oh man, you have no idea. We're going to take this movie shit to a whole another level. Just sit tight. Just sit tight. But
buckle your seatbelts.
Buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be a
get
wild
in that DeLorean with us, guys.
So before we get to today's movie, we wanted to get some movie news out the way. And that's really the biggest news that we've kind of gotten leading up to the release. Don't forget, It Chapter 2 does drop this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's getting, I don't want to say it's divisive, but it's leaning more towards positive. But the reviews have been a bit more in between.
Yeah, they're kind of teetering. And I think what it's going to be, first of all, this is a long movie. This is a 2.5 hour horror movie.
I don't know if I could do 2.5 hours of being scared. Like, I don't know if I could really pull.
Well, it has to be constantly scary during that entire time. If there's a dead moment in there, like you're gonna feel it, and it's gonna feel all throughout the theater. From what I'm hearing, I hear it's not as good as the first part.
Right.
But if you remember the original second part of this, the miniseries. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that good either. There is one scene that literally makes me laugh more than anything, and it's Tim Curry. He gets turned around by Alan Rickman, and he's all like, "Kiss me, fat boy."
I remember that scene. Kiss me, fat boy.
Kiss me, fat boy. So it's funny because every future girlfriend has to say that to me now.
Well, another movie that's getting rave reviews actually. But I'm gonna say right now, when we first talked about the trailer, Dave didn't too much care for the trailer, but he has now come around, and I am now happy, excited, ecstatic to know that number one, the Joker has premiered at the Venice Film Festival to a standing ovation of 8 minutes.
That's insane.
My hand starts hurting after about 30 seconds. But 8 minutes straight? Shit. I mean, shit. Currently sitting at an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. And that's
critics.
Those are the critics.
That's critics.
Not fans.
By comparison, the latest Dave Chappelle stand-up, which is phenomenal, is saying at a 0%.
0%. Mm-hmm.
From critics because, well, they just don't have a backbone.
And you don't have a sense of humor, which is crazy.
Exactly.
But here we are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read out some of these Twitter reactions for the Joker movie and tell me what you're thinking about it. This is from Terry Schwartz. I've seen Joker and I fully endorse Jim Vejvoda's, I'm fucking that up, decision to give our first film review 10 out of 10 of the year. I haven't stopped thinking about it. Moving on, we got Rob Keys of Screen Rant, who says, I saw Joker, really dug it. It's a feature that steals your attention and requires time to process. It's an acting showcase for Joaquin Phoenix and a story that's ambiguous and surprising, but one that really grounds Arthur Fleck's transformation. He also says, we don't get character pieces like the Joker anymore. And I hope this opens doors on that front. It's dark for sure, but also really rewatchable. I'll stick with you and make you feel for Arthur. It'll stick with you and make you feel for Arthur. Eric Davis of Fandango says, Joker is a bold, bodacious love letter to Scorsese's The King of Comedy, told through the lens of DC's most iconic villain. Dark, disturbing, brutal, and sad. It's about an abused man who doesn't start living until he's dead inside. I love that quote. Because that literally shapes it up for you. Like, remember, we were too young to really see Falling Down for the first time, but
I remember seeing it.
But you remember seeing it though?
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
When you saw Falling Down and you watched Michael Douglas' character literally begin to fucking lose it.
Yeah.
This is what this feels like. This feels like a combination of Falling Down, of a king of comedy, of a Taxi Driver. Not to mention you got De Niro in there. So I'm pumped for this movie, man.
I am too. I'm a little again, and this was something I iterated several months ago when the first trailer dropped, because it was a concern of mine, you know. And the reason why it's a concern is because of kind of the impressionable society that we kind of live in right now. Mm-hmm. One of the things I don't want it to do is where people look at this character not as simply a sympathetic character or see him as a sympathetic character. That's fine, but not to utilize it that because of the mental illness aspect that's being played off, that this is why he becomes, you know, who he winds up becoming, mm-hmm. which is a kind of a tough thing to say. From the reactions, I'm pumped. I'm definitely a lot more invested and interested than I was several months ago. I still have a few fears that's going to come out, but to be honest, it's the same fears that would come out from like the 1980s when you know, Dungeons and Dragons were first coming out, and a kid would go and stab another kid and blame it on Dungeons and Dragons, and, right. and Gary Gygax had to deal with that. Or the same thing with Mortal Kombat, and the kid who shot himself or the kid who shot his two friends and blamed it on Mortal Kombat. Right. That's the one fear I have, and because that's going to take so much away from it. Right. The other side of it, honestly, is the last time that we got a good Joker interpreted on screen. It was also one of the worst shooting massacres in U.S. history with Aurora, Colorado. I'm sorry, that was Dark Knight Rises. But he dressed up as him, right? You know, walking in there. That is what I'm afraid of more than anything. And because of that, that's where I'm all for character pieces. And bro, like, trust me, I want this to be good. As a somewhat DC fan, I also don't believe in an origin story for Joker, but I'm open to it.
I grabbed these last two quotes because these last two quotes for the reaction was, it really does make you think. Like Mike Ciccini from Den of Geek, he says Joker is disturbing and uncompromising. It's not a superhero movie or even what you usually think of as a comic book adaptation. It's a horror movie, and an effective one. Joaquin Phoenix is brilliant and unsettling. You can't think of Joker like any other DC film, but if nobody had never heard of the Joker before seeing this, it will still create a villain for the ages. And then Brandon Davis of comicbook.com says, I saw Joker and it is unlike anything before. The movie is dark, thrilling, and chilling. An insane masterpiece. The movie absolutely transcends being a comic book film and acts as a character study, which at times will make audience uncomfortable in wild ways. 10 out of 10. What I'm going to get out of this movie, what I expect to get out of this movie, when you look at who is behind the camera, because Todd Phillips is a good director, you mainly know him for his comedy, but the fact that he's taking on this dark subject, I'm quite interested. I'm interested to see where it goes. But furthermore, I expect nothing but greatness from Joaquin Phoenix. Like nothing but. Like he's one of those actors who, when he transforms for sure. But furthermore than that, this is a movie, and trust me, I feel like people are going to agree with this. A standalone movie like The Joker is, we didn't want this. We didn't ask for this. But it's here.
No, we really didn't ask.
We didn't ask for this, but I mean, nobody really thought like, the backstory on the Joker, what would that look like?
When I first heard it, I hated the idea.
Nobody even thought about it because usually one of the things about the Joker that keeps the Joker's lore alive. In fact, we know nothing about him. He's the crown prince of chaos and crime. You know. Now that the movie is coming and people have now seen it and it's saying, listen. Saying things like it's unsettling, it's uncomfortable, it's chilling, it's dark, it's not a superhero movie, it's a fucking horror flick.
So when I think about that, I think about movies like Hereditary and Midsommar.
Yes.
And that I don't know if I'm going to be okay with that, to be honest.
Well, as far as like your overall thoughts on it, or how you feel when you leave it.
Both.
I feel as if correction. I want to leave this movie theater feeling uncomfortable. I want to leave the theater being like, I don't know what I just watched, but I do know it's gonna take me a little while to really let it process, because what's on screen and what I'm thinking that this is even based off of, and the way I think the movie's gonna end, is gonna create some conversation. Absolutely. So, hearing what I'm hearing, they're using the word chilling and unsettling and dark and all that. That puts me in a place where I must see this movie.
Let's talk about Todd Phillips for a second.
Talk to me.
Todd Phillips is absolutely known for his comedy, but in my eyes, he also directed what could be considered the best comedy of all time if you're only going to watch a comedy once. And I mean literally one time watching it, and that's Borat.
Did he do Borat?
He sure did. He wrote the screenplay for it.
But Larry Charles directed Borat, though.
Yeah, but
right.
His screenplay is what made it so interesting, and I'll tell you why. Borat's one of those movies, and I think I wonder if he's going to pull anything from this, because he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay, and I don't know who won that year, but that's a tough sell to tell me that shouldn't have won an Academy Award,
right?
Because the movie, as stupid as it is,
I love Borat.
I love it too, and I love it because it shines a light for exactly who people are and what they actually in an everyday life, you know, how their normal is. And not so much when the camera is rolling. You know, this is just who they were as people. Now, obviously, it pissed off a lot of people, and people are going to say, man, what an idiot for people to kind of say that. But Todd Phillips is one of those guys that he kind of takes that idiocracy of these people and turns it into something that's fully entertaining. Because of that, you know, and because of other comedies from Old School. Old School is a classic Will Ferrell movie. Due Date is a very underrated Zach Galifianakis movie that didn't get its proper due, mainly because The Hangover came out before it.
Like a year before, didn't it?
Right. And guess who directed that one?
Todd Phillips.
Exactly. Starsky and Hutch, even though it was based on a TV show, is a heavily underrated comedy as well. You know, and let's not forget that he was a producer on A Star Is Born, so he knows uncomfortable. He knows how to make it. He knows how to make it stupid, and knows how to make it, you know, kind of rough for people to watch. My fear, more than anything with this, is that it is the movie. The movie's going to, because the Joker's always been insane, absolutely, but even the best portrayals of Joker doesn't fully get you to that fully committed, uncomfortable zone.
Right.
You know, even a good example is in The Dark Knight. Okay, Maggie Gyllenhaal and the scene with Maggie Gyllenhaal when he throws her off the roof. Did you know Maggie Gyllenhaal had never seen Heath Ledger with the makeup on before the scene that was actually being filmed? So when she's trying to turn away, she actually broke her character at the time. But Heath picked up on it and was like, "Hey, look at me." You know, and he's doing that. And it's creepy, but you knew that something was going to be okay. With this movie, because you know it's not going to be okay, it's going to, I don't know. I think it can have a negative impact because of it. And that's what makes me afraid for it, because I do think that Joaquin Phoenix is probably, if it wasn't going to be Heath, he was probably my number 2 pick
to play this character. Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, like even when Suicide Squad was announced, and I was like, Joaquin Phoenix, he's the guy that creeps me out the most. And they chose Jared Leto. I was like, bad pick. Like immediate bad pick. And then they showed what he looks like. I was like, awful pick. He looks awful. He looks, you guys could have done something completely different and made us feel better about this character. But instead I'm getting I'm getting the worst version of this character of all time.
So overall, before we get to the main event, where is your level of excitement for this movie?
I'm excited, but I'm also worried. I'm excited, but I feel that it could easily backfire within a year of itself. That I think people are going to walk out of it. I think critics are hyping it up really well, which is a good thing. But it's kind of like it's how I felt with Widows. You know, I really love the idea of what Widows was trying to become. The execution was shit. And I'm sorry for those of you who actually really
didn't we go see that together?
We did go see that together. We saw that together at the Rainbow Promenade. And as much as I wanted that movie, as much as I wanted to like that movie, I just couldn't. And even when it comes on HBO now, I was like, this is just bad.
All right.
That's what I fear for this movie.
So Joker does drop on October
3rd,
or 3rd or 4th, one of the two. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. So let's get to today's movie at hand. Super Throwback September is upon us, people. Today's movie, we are taking it back to 1996, 23 years old. Independence Day.
Yes! I was so happy because first of all, we got to kind of talk very, very closely about this entire concept of the Super Throwback September. Basically, Jay and I took a look at the list for October, and it's not that October 1999 didn't have good movies. It just didn't have movies that were so impactful. And especially considering how the rest of this year actually plays out towards the end, because there are some really iconic films that are going to come up at the end of 1999 going into 2000. I was like, nah, man, like I can't have a dead month like this. If that's the case, why not just take the month off? But we had already taken a month off this year, people, and we didn't want to do that to you. So that's when we said, you know what? Let's switch it up. Let's do this. Now, we will be taking a break. We will take a 1 week break because we have a special guest that's going to be coming on. But yeah, that's going to be the MO. I'm excited for this. But Independence Day.
Original release date, July 2nd, 1996. Shares opening weekend with Phenomenon.
Yes, it does.
That was a weekend. Yeah, John Travolta.
Yeah, and not a bad John Travolta.
Wasn't a bad flick compared to Independence Day. I'd wait.
No, I'd probably go with Independence Day off.
Production budget $75 million with a box office total of $817.4 million.
Ow!
65% on Rotten Tomatoes. Academy Award winner for Best Visual Effects.
I agree, and I agree. I think 65%. Even 20 years later, there's something to really like about this movie.
Oh, yeah.
There's actually a lot to like about this movie. Because in my eyes, this was really the introduction of Will Smith to the big screen. Yes, I know Bad Boys had come out before then. And Bad Boys is a good movie. But this was like the movie that solidified him as a star in my eyes. Because Bad Boys was very much like him playing off Martin Lawrence. More than anything. It was Mike Lowry playing off Martin Lawrence.
Well, the difference between this and Bad Boys was that technically, at the time, Martin Lawrence was the bigger star.
Exactly.
So, essentially, with this became the Will Smith show with this movie.
Yes, it did for a good while. And it was really like, it was the moment that you knew that the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was ready to graduate to being a top movie star.
Exactly. So, this movie, okay. I did not know this movie is 2 hours and 33 minutes long.
Yes, it is.
When you do watch it, it does fly by. It really does go by.
It may be one of the fastest two and a half hours you'll ever feel.
I was like, really?
Mm-hmm. So this movie, we talked about in 90s movies how they wanted to talk about natural disasters. There were other movies that were also kind of coming out at this time. Before the whole Star Wars thing was ever going to be, it's so weird because even though Star Wars Phantom Menace was only 3 years after Independence Day, I really consider them like in two different decades in my eyes, because this feels like a 90s movie, because you had like the movie Stargate that had come out. You also had The Fifth Element that had come out. So the space exploration thing was still pretty cool to kind of check out. It's just they didn't really know like where to go with it. And really what it was is that they wanted to come up with this idea. And really it was Roland Emmerich, who's the writer and director of this movie, came up with the idea when fielding the question about what his belief in the existence of alien life would actually look like. Mm-hmm. And believe me, this movie has flaws. All right, there's logic flaws that even I say, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. But let's kick this sucker off, huh?
Let's also talk about the star power that's really in this movie. Like, we're talking Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman, Randy Quaid, Brett Spiner, Vivica A. Fox in all her glory.
Judd Hirsch in what may have been one of his best roles I've ever seen him in. Do you know he's still alive?
Yes, he is.
Like I'm surprised he is still alive. I'm like, man, he looked old in this movie.
And that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, and that was 23 years ago. But the star power in this movie is just so prominent because it kind of takes a little bit of everything that you want. You have the comedy with Randy Quaid. You have kind of the seriousness, but he's kind of a little bit of a dopey white guy with both Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman. There's so much to love about this movie. So let's kick it off. This movie begins on July 2nd, 1996. It's 4th of July weekend, which is a huge military weekend because obviously Fourth of July is supposed to be this huge, celebration. And normally military personnel is taken off is usually off. An enormous mothership UFO that has 1/4 the mass of the moon enters orbit around Earth to plane assault forces saucers that are like 15 miles across. And I mean, when you get this first look of it, like when you see what it looks like above a city and you see how big it fucking is over Los Angeles, over New York City.
And the saucers itself are 15 miles wide.
Right, exactly. Wide!
Shit!
Who came up with that idea?
So in comparison
to Vegas, it would be from my house past Mandalay Bay. Yeah, which goes to show you how far I drive to work. But
Jesus Christ!
Or it would be like going from the Bellagio all the way out to the Fiesta Henderson.
From my house to my job.
Yeah,
past that actually.
Yeah, probably.
Jeez.
It's huge. It's massive.
Just kill me now, man. I want a part of that.
So David Levinson, who is an MIT-trained satellite tech, decodes a signal embedded within the global satellite. and he has this most annoying assistant who very quickly could become my That Fool Award in this movie.
David! Harvey Firestein. Shout out to Harvey Firestein, man. He's always been dope.
But Firestein, Firestein was also in Mrs. Doubtfire. Mm-hmm. And it's all like, he has this voice that is one of the worst.
I gotta call my mother.
I gotta call my mother.
I
gotta call my brother. I gotta call my lawyer. Forget the lawyer. That's what he sounds like.
David!
It's awful. Mm-hmm. So David Levinson decodes this embedded satellite, and he basically determines that the aliens that are going across the planet at this point has a countdown timer for coordinated attack, and he feels that he needs to speak to the president. And the best way for that to do so is by going through his former wife, who is the White House Communications Director, Constance Spanos, taking David, his father Julius, who is a very prominent Jewish figure in this movie, and he is just awesome in every sense of the word, because he is sarcastic. He's sarcastic, and he can tell they constantly get on his nerves. It doesn't matter. He's really dope. We also get the introduction to a young, what is he? He's a captain, right?
Captain Stephen Hunter.
Yeah. We get the introduction to a young captain with his girlfriend, or I guess fiance. No, he hadn't proposed yet.
Yeah, the girlfriend.
So girlfriend in bed, and it's played by Will Smith.
Absolutely. So what I do love about this opening is that you get a young Will Smith. Like you get a fresh from the Bel Air,
fresh from 6 degrees of separation.
Will Smith, you know. Also, if you notice that by the time he gets outside and he's drinking his coffee, he's now aware of something's going on, and he has to report to the base.
Right, but what was his excuse?
Oh, what was the excuse?
It was the earthquakes. He was all like, "Damn, neighbors are leaving because of the earthquakes."
Right. Oh, exactly.
Now it's hilarious because here in Vegas, we just got hit by an earthquake like a month or 6 weeks ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago, and it was an aftershock outside of basically outside of San Bernardino.
Right.
And we were all sorts of fucking panicked. So to see
but panic like these people,
no.
I love the fact that like when you get that it's a great shot too. He's outside and he has his coffee, he's reading the paper, and then you look to your left and you see people hauling ass to get out of
right.
They're
city. Packing fucking everything.
Packing, right?
Like the house is coming with them
and
on that one trip.
He looks to the right. The neighbors is getting the fuck out of here. Like,
right.
And then he looks immediately in front of him and sees the shit.
And this shit is not only it's barely above some of those buildings. I swear to God.
I mean, it's here,
and it's there, and you can't miss it. Like it's huge. It's enormous.
Like, what the hell? So I also love the fact that the way he plays this role is it's subtle and it's playful, and he's a tough guy, and I believe the line to Jasmine was, I'm gonna go up there. I'm pretty sure they didn't come here, to start no fight.
They come all the way down here to don't start no fight.
Right? You know what I'm saying? And when he does he deploys to the base, and he has the best friend played by Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah,
played brilliantly by Harry Connick Jr.
It is. Yeah,
I actually really enjoy Harry Connick Jr. in this movie. And I love how they're getting debriefed. And then once you figure out exactly what's happening, he has another great line. He goes, something funny, Captain Hiller? No, sir. Just really anxious to go up there and whoop PT's ass. That's all.
But it was.
That's a great line.
It was clever. It was cute. These alien things were just massive. And one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit is the marketing for this afterwards was huge. There was a whole toy line production
before and after.
That was before and after. That was massive. You had and this was again another thing with the 90s that you really have to consider. Toys from back in the 90s were having that tie with the official movie tie-in was so prominent in the 1990s. I remember my friend having, for example, when Terminator 2 had come out, he had both Robert Patrick and he had both he had Arnold also. Fully able with you push the button and like his skin flies off and beneath you see the Terminator inside. With this, you had this massive alien life form that we're going to talk about later in this movie. He also had the ship that was literally half the size of this table.
Right.
You had the little alien riders. You had the computer game that came out with this. There was a lot of tie-in back in the day with stuff that would come out. And while that still happens nowadays, it's nowhere near as big. If anything, it's only when like stuff with like Lego Ninjago like comes out, they'll tie that in quite a bit, but Lego's been around forever, so that's why it can kind of work.
I also love the fact that when this movie was released on VHS, it came with a hologram on the cover of it.
It did.
Which was so dope.
It was.
If you move it, you watch the dead White House blow up.
Right. So they ordered this large-scale evacuation from New York City, LA, and Washington, D.C., but unfortunately, it becomes too late. And actually, this is a really cool sequence.
Real quick, I also want to say this as well. For this to be a 2 hour and 33-minute movie, it kicks right up.
It does.
It doesn't really slow. It kicks right up.
It doesn't really slow down. And
all this is like the first, 10 minutes? 15 minutes of the movie?
Man, it's something like that. Within 20 minutes, basically within the first half hour, you have the first attack.
Yes.
That pretty much happens. And And it's funny because I'm not even telling the rest of the backstories for some of these people. I haven't told the backstory of the president. I haven't told the backstory of Randy Quaid, who's so prominent in this movie also.
We'll get there.
But the way this attack happens is that they want to do this thing that's called the welcome wagon, right? So they send out an Apache helicopter that's supposed to send a signal, and I'm pretty certain the signal that they were using was something that was used from like back in the 70s.
Right.
Because back in the 70s or 70s, 60s, I'm wrong somewhere. Some astronomy major, please correct me. They had launched a satellite going all the way past Pluto. I think it just passed Pluto like maybe 3 years ago or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that for them to find life on Earth, they actually put like messages on it and like recordings of stuff. So 60s and 70s. So they're going to get a big surprise when they come here now.
Right.
But that was kind of the entire idea. So I think they were trying to do a similar message where they were trying to basically welcome them in. And mind you, David, who really is a genius in this film because he's able to hack the White House communications director, cell phone, to basically let him into the White House and have a very, very brief conversation with Bill Pullman. And of course, the backstory between them is that they knew each other before, and David actually punched him out because he thought he was like hitting on his wife or something like that.
Right. You punched the president?
You punched the
president? He wasn't president then.
He wasn't the president then.
You punched the president?
So they do this whole welcome wagon thing. And in the process, like David, like, man, he just like convinces him. He's like, I'm sorry, it's too late. We have to go now. Mm-hmm. Like, we have no more time. The president's wife is out in New York City, which is very key. And you get this shot, and it's an insane looking shot because all of a sudden you see them basically getting on the plane. Mm. Meanwhile, because they haven't done the counterattack yet. Meanwhile, Vivica A. Fox, who of course plays an exotic dancer. So
Not a stripper, an exotic dancer.
So I want everybody to think about everybody's occupation in this movie, and you can see why the movie 2012 is so ridiculous. You have an exotic dancer, the White House communication director, the president of the United States, an MIT trained satellite technician, a father who I'm assuming is retired at this point,
right?
A captain, a Marine pilot, who is a captain in the Marines, and they're all, this movie all intertwines them at the end of the day. Not to mention Randy Quaid, who is a drunk crop duster,
with his own experiences,
with his own experience that we're going to talk about in a minute, and it's just insane. But this shot, it just comes so cool because you see like it opens up the inside of it, and you see itself kind of lining itself up, and it almost looks like a star.
And then the electricity,
and you hear this like buzzing and electricity. Mind you, everybody is on Air Force One at this point, and you see this first beam come down as if a targeting system over the White House, and then you see this column of light come out of nowhere, and it hits, and there's just fire everywhere, and it burst out like this huge ring going across DC, New York, and LA.
Well, don't forget the alien welcomers who wanted to go up to that skyscraper.
Oh yeah, no, they just shot him out of the sky like no problem.
No problem. He goes, look, it's opening up.
It's opening up. I can't really see anything. Choo choo.
You're definitely dead.
Oh yeah, no, he wasn't surprised. The minute they saw the welcome wagon was down, they like booked it to Air Force One.
You have no choice, but the level of destruction that first attack gives, it's like.
Keep in mind, we're talking DC, New York, and LA. I've been to all three of those cities, and to imagine an attack that wipes it out, is insane. Is absolutely insane to think about. And nothing is supposed to survive. Nothing is supposed to survive because this ring of fire is so consistently getting bigger that nothing is going to survive it. except for Vivica A. Fox and her dog,
And
Boomer,
her son. Yeah.
and her son. Why? Because they hid down a subway tunnel emergency exit, which that's not the way that works. But whatever. She lived.
She got through it. She got through it.
She got through it. Her friend didn't make it. Her friend was like,
she was on the beam. Yeah, she was on the fucking roof. But what I do love about that Ring of Fire scene is that, like, in most, disaster flicks, when whether it's a ring of fire or it's a big wave of water or like everybody's just running for their fucking lives, right? And you already know a good majority of you are not going to make it, And when Boomer does, basically get stuck, she's going, Boomer! Boomer! Boomer comes through. And mind you, this is only July 2nd. It's not even July 4th. This is July 2nd. We still have 2 more days of shit to deal with. But
it killed millions.
It killed millions on the first day. On the first day, it killed millions.
Insane to think about. Because that was the idea. The idea is that they were going to target all the major cities. Mind you, that was only U.S. cities that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about if they actually targeted Beijing or if they targeted, Paris or if they targeted Moscow.
All U.S.
Or if they targeted Shanghai. Shanghai had at the time 1.7 billion people. Mm-hmm. It was something insane. Mm-hmm. So imagine if they just kind of hovered over that city and shot fire and everybody died. Everybody died.
So come July 3rd now, the international leaders, they do begin ordering their counterattacks. Air forces attack the saucers. By the way, they're 15 miles wide, so you can't just attack them.
Right, yeah. There's no what point of attack do you have? So they make this attack, and look, this was a trailer shot, and it was still a fucking cool ass scene because they had to find a way to counterattack some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And as they come up to attack to shoot off. By the way, all their call names were forms of eagles. Eagle 20, Box 2,
Bus 2.
As they would fire either sidewinders or missiles or whatever, nothing was getting past their shields. And that's when they realized they were in deep shit. Because, yeah, it's a fucking shield and none of your fucking missiles were working on it.
Nah, it's just bounced right off it.
So, of course, they approach the big ship, and, of course, it's 15 fucking miles wide, so they have to find a way to get around it, right? So
the big ship is 15 miles wide?
What?
The big ship is 15 miles wide?
No.
The saucers are?
The saucers are.
Right. Mm-hmm.
No, the big ship is 1/4 the size of the moon.
Right.
The moon. It takes a whole day to get to the moon, and it's 1/4 of the size of that. Think about that for a second.
Jesus Christ. So,
as a ship, I mean, and all these little fucking ships came from this thing. So to put it on a massive scale, it was huge, and you had the pilots try to maneuver basically out of the way the best that they could. But of course, these alien ships, they were incredibly talented, and they basically wipe out everybody, killing Harry Connick Jr.
Oh, man, I'm not gonna lie to you. Just put us on a pause for a second. When Harry Connick Jr.'s character dies, and you pretty much know he's going to die.
Yeah.
Because they do this in other movies. You do establish a good brotherhood between Stephen Hiller and Jimmy. I believe his name.
It's Jimmy Wilder.
Jimmy Wilder. And by the time he's gasping for the air, I'm like, oh no. No, not Jimmy, please, And then of course, Jimmy, Steven's going, Jimmy, where you at? I can't breathe. Put your mask back on. And by the time you see that green light kind of illuminate Jimmy's face, like, oh, Jimmy's a goner, And so we go, Jimmy, no! I felt so bad, dude. But
the other side of it was not only did the big ship have a shield, not even did the little saucers have a shield, but the fighter jets had shields too. And one of them got lit up by a missile. No problem. Just kind of ricocheted around a little bit, and then it was fine, flying back totally, completely normal.
Not a problem.
Must be nice.
Not a problem.
Must be so nice. So, but Will Smith, Captain Hiller, is an expert pilot here. And it's funny because there was a movie recently that basically had this canyon scene, right? And I called it immediately. I was like, "Oh no, that's Independence Day." Mm-hmm. Like y'all are just copying off Independence Day. I'm cool with that. Like it was a good scene because they're basically flying through what looks like the Grand Canyon, which is again so insane to think about. But flying through the Grand Canyon, going up and down and all the way through until finally Will Smith deploys his parachute as he ejects out of the seat, and the parachute blocks the vision of the fighter jet. And of course, he doesn't see the canyon wall, but it doesn't destroy the ship. It just nicks it up well enough.
Right.
And to be honest, this was a huge reveal because you finally get to see what these fucking things look like. And here's the thing. I've seen 70s and 80s aliens movies, but I don't think anything prepared me to see what this thing looks like because it was nasty.
It's tall with dreads, which is great. Like, I think all aliens have dreads now.
Sure, yeah.
But it's just like most movies in the 90s. This movie is littered with like just those one-liners. So when Hiller approaches that down ship, the down saucer, he pulls up, and of course, once he opens the little thing up, he's jumping out at him, you know? And so, of course, he hits you with that great one-liner, "Welcome to Earth."
Welcome to Earth.
Boom! Just drops him one time with a right hook.
Right, but I mean, this thing looks serious.
Highly unlikely, but looked cool. Highly unlikely, but looked cool. And so, and not only that, you're going to drag this fucker for the next, I don't know how far.
It was miles for sure.
Before you actually get stopped.
So,
now, even with that, the genius of Will Smith playing out this character, because mind you, you're dragging a fucking passed out alien through the desert, and he's more complaining about, you know what? I could have been in a barbecue, you know, but instead I'm dragging your heavy ass.
And what the hell is that smell?
Your dreads hanging out the back of my parachute.
He like kicks him twice.
What the hell is that smell?
I could have been at a barbecue.
So. And we
get the introduction early on in the film, but this is when he really begins to play a prominent part in the film, of Randy Quaid. Randy Quaid is a pilot, although a crop duster pilot, which is a pretty reasonable trade. Although he is a bit of an alcoholic.
Russell Casey.
And unfortunately, it seems like he's actually dealt with these guys before.
He doesn't seem to... Oh my God!
He's not like all there at all. Mm. And it's funny because his kids, one of the kids has a little boyfriend who was played in 10 Things I Hate About You. It was Joey. Mm-hmm. But a couple of the kids,
I hate his face.
I know you do.
I hate his face.
Why do you hate
Russell?
his face?
What's going on? Hey, Russell! Shut up.
Why do you hate his face?
I don't know. He's had that face like I feel like you surf all day. you surf all day.
One of the kids is James Duvall, who was in Donnie Darko. He was Frank. And then a couple of them actually went up kind of big. Like Lisa Jacob was in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yep.
That's where she literally got like one of her beginnings at. She also wound up being in what's that movie? Picture Perfect, I think is the name of the movie.
What, Jennifer Aniston and Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, she was in that.
Huh.
Yeah. So she got some roles, and then finally the little kid. I know you know who the little kid is. It's Giuseppe Andrews. He was in Cabin Fever.
Ah, right. Mm-hmm.
He was the sheriff's deputy, the like really weird sheriff's deputy in it. He was also in Detroit Rock City.
Right. So
basically, these kids are more functioning than the father is. Like they try to make sure like the father's there on time, and And basically, they go to pick up and drive just to get out of major cities. And they're basically ready to live as nomads. Them and this whole huge troop of like RVs. Meanwhile, back to the president, David, the Levinsons, and everybody else. After having about after some character development, where come to find out, of course, David still has feelings for his ex-wife. And she's told that by the father. Some questions kind of come into concern about why didn't we know anything about this? And this was the next unbelievable part that I had about it.
Can we just take a moment out to shout out the unforgettable talent that is Robert Loggia?
Oh,
real quick.
Oh, he's amazing.
I mean, if I was white, he'd be my grandpa. Honestly.
So anyways, here's where the unbelievable part comes in. The president does not know about Area 51.
But he's the fucking president.
But he's the fucking president. I want to put this to perspective for you Senate folks. 17 days from now, apparently there's supposed to be a big-ass party outside of Area 51.
Are we still doing that?
I'm definitely going to watch the massacre.
It's about mass shootings.
It was already heavily implied back then that Area 51 existed. Mm-hmm. And then we got confirmation like in 2006 or something like that, right? So it wasn't really a big secret. I think I was more irritated about the fact that Bill Pullman actually did not know. How did you not know?
Well, when you're president, I don't,
He won re-election. You didn't have time in the first 4 years to know about that?
You didn't go by?
And his weasel fucking, I don't know what he was. He wasn't vice president. He might as well been.
Like Secretary of State?
Yeah. He always plays a weasel in all of these movies. James Rebhorn. Oh my God, I wanted to kill this guy. I mean, rest in peace. I know he died in 2014, but still, good Lord. He was just so annoying because all he was trying to do was undermine the president like the entire time. Like he was like, why do I know about this? And he was like, 2 words for you, Mr. President. Need to know basis. It's like, that's not 2 words.
He's the fucking president. He's the fucking president.
I expect President Trump to know these things. I'm always fearful that he knows these things, but he knows these things now. I'm just waiting for him to release all the information when he eventually gets out of office. Anyway, so...
Which you know you will.
We'll see. I don't know yet. But, it's July 3rd. Meanwhile, back to Vanessa. Vanessa has picked up kind of this ragtag group of survivors here, which, hey, lo and behold... The president's wife is part of this group, which
badly injured.
She's severely injured.
Badly injured.
But and it's weird because she is badly injured. She doesn't look badly injured, but she's badly injured.
She's pretty bad.
So she's picked up this ragtag group of people, and Will Smith meets up with Randy Quaid, of course, because he's driving across the desert to get out of there. And pretty much everybody meets up at Area 51. They didn't know everybody was supposed to meet up at Area 51, but they all meet up at Area 51. And it probably comes to one of my favorite scenes in this movie because they actually meet, and the character was so popular they brought him back for the sequel. Go figure. You actually meet
Dr. Brackish Oakun.
Brent Spiner. And to say that he's a character is saying something. Brent Spiner, for those of you who don't know who he is Data from Star Trek First Contact. So he's totally a nerd that fits right in.
He is so eccentric in this movie. He's one of those guys who are like, you locked yourself in a room for a long time.
It's really seemed that way.
To really kind of convey some thought. You know what I mean? Now, this scene, which I do love, is when they are examining the alien, and they discover that they too have a ship.
Oh, yeah. That they've had a ship this entire time.
And never said shit about it.
And they said, yeah, these guys were crash landing here all this time. Like these two died in the crash. This one died like a few weeks later. So we're really excited about finally getting a live specimen. And like the president's like, excited? People are dying out there. And he's all like, whoa, 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 man. Like, what do I know?
Hold on. Wait a minute, man. As you can see, man, I don't leave these quarters very often, man. The fuck do I know what's going on outside, man?
I don't even know what people are supposed to smell like anymore, man.
Did you smell me, man? I smell like these walls, man.
So they examined this alien that's been captured. And I'm actually really surprised that they brought him back for the sequel, because I could have swore up and down that he died.
Man, I thought he died. I was convinced he died, actually.
I was like, oh, they're just going to kill him off, and that's going to be awful, because he certainly freshened up this movie. And they basically go, and this was such a cool scene. And the reason why I really remember the scene, do you remember back in 97 or 98, there was this hoax that had come out, and it was like a television special where they basically said, we captured a live alien. Right. And we're getting ready to perform surgery on this. And come to find out, it wasn't fucking real, which is awful because it totally got me. Like I was into it. Like TV shows like the X-Files would base stuff off of this crap all the time. And what I love about this is that you get this scene and you get like this cocoon like body of the sentinel body that's there. And they go and they make the incision right down the middle of the face, because they have to open up what seems kind of like where something would be in there.
Right.
And it goes and it just splits like wide open. Right. And it scared the shit out of everybody. And I'm telling you, for an action movie in 1996, I know for sure it scared the shit out of everybody in the theater as well.
Right.
Because we were all really invested into it at this point. And they go and they kind of cut open this pouch, and there's another goddamn alien in there who's just like hanging out in this brain sack. Apparently, he's the actual controller of the body, and it wakes up. And when it wakes up, it leaves this insane noise, like a locust sound. That just it's like high pitch and screeching. Everybody starts going insane. But of course, he has control of this massive body. So he uses all of its tentacles and whatnot, and he's just fucking things up like all over the place. Right?
But what make that scene so eerie is that by the time the president and
his crew, basically.
Robert Loggia, they show up to see what the fuck is going on, they throw his body against the glass, and you can see the little tentacle or whatever it is around his neck.
And Adam Baldwin.
Yes,
is there as well? I think Major Mitchell was his name.
Yes,
right.
He's the one who actually shoots down the alien.
And it's crazy because it's so creepy because he's pinned against the wall and he's all like, "Release me now."
No. What's creepy is when he goes, "Well, what do you want us to do?"
Die.
Oh man,
die. And it's like, oh man, what the fuck?
Oh man!
and like Robert Loggia,
kill it!
Robert Loggia is like, is that thing bulletproof? And they were like, no, sir. And it's all American, like, and they just go and blow this fucking alien
sir.
apart. No, sir.
Bang, 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 you're dead. No, sir.
And it's awesome. So now understanding what's going on, they decide to try one more counterattack. And this time it's to... So I'm kind of curious on how the aliens kind of figured out their strategic positioning, because I'm wondering if they were doing this based upon like largest cities.
Well, ask me this. So before they actually take out the alien that has Dr. Okun tied up, they hack into the president's brain, and the president is able to see their plan.
Right.
Which is wild because, like, how is that even possible?
Well, I think, in sci-fi, they kind of talk about what's called telepathic imaging, projectile imaging. And so it's like, if I'm giving you a vision of the future, or if it'd be like me trying to communicate everything that's there. Now, normally this requires touch, but apparently these guys could just fucking do it, which is weird as fuck. But he was just like, yeah, they're like locusts. Like they just go around planet to planet fucking shit up.
And that's wild too, because like, you know, once again, once he falls into that weird trance and you know, to get him out of that trance, they go, you know, I seen the plan. Let's nuke these bastards.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
in the process of I guess they do say that Okun goes into a coma, which is weird. But they authorize a nuclear attack, and they use a V2 Spirit that flies a nuclear bomb above Houston. Now, again, this is where I kind of have to question things a little, because Houston is already destroyed at the time of attack. So how fast are these things going? Because they're able to cover a lot of ground in a very short amount of time. Because LA to Houston is not a short trip. New York City to Houston is not a short trip. DC to Houston, that's not a short trip. Right. That's hours by plane. So for them to set up, shoot, fire, no problem. So I want to kind of know, where was civilization at this point? Like how far little did we actually get? Anyways, so of course they shoot this nuke, and they thought for sure that they got it, but no, it wasn't the case at all. Unfortunately, the alien survived it.
Now,
and at this point, everybody is hopeless and everybody is devastated.
Right. Now, let's not forget Marilyn, who was the first lady. She's now at Area 51 with along with Jasmine and the other survivors of LA.
Well, the reason why is because Captain Stephen Hiller was able to basically hijack a helicopter,
right,
fly out to Los Toros, New Mexico. El Toro, New Mexico.
El Toro is actually in Cali. It's not too far from Irvine.
The Marine base?
Yeah. Not too far from Irvine.
Yeah, you're right. It is. Because when I think of the Irvine, okay, yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of Victorville. They're basically the same. So he goes and he like saves her, no problem, of course, you know. And the president's wife is like on her deathbed.
And this is where the movie really doesn't get like that. Number one, the emotional strings are being pulled because you like, fuck, that fucking sucks. Right. But at the same time, it's like, it is time to kill these fuckers.
Right, you know exactly.
And that's really what that vibe you get, especially when you actually go with the president and the daughter to go see the mom, you know, and then, you know, he has quick words with Marilyn, and then they go outside, and then, even before he actually goes in, the doctor says it's not looking good.
Right.
Right. And so when he goes in to go talk to her, and what did the doctor say? Oh, he said you'll be just fine. Like,
she's all like, liar.
It's like, fuck. So once he goes outside, I'm telling you, like, I remember watching this part in the movie, and I'm like, oh, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, it does.
And he goes,
Mommy's sleeping right now.
Oh yeah. The daughter actually, is Mommy sleeping? Like, yep, Mommy's sleeping.
Yeah.
These fuckers gotta die.
Exactly.
They have to die.
July 4th.
Independence Day.
David, who has gotten drunk, has basically just been like demolishing all these recycling bins, because he's the one that wants to save the earth, and I really want to save the earth, and all this stuff I care about recycling and whatnot, it's all going down the fucking drain, which he has a point on.
Very true.
And he goes and he's talking to his father, who's trying to make him feel better. He's like, "Come on, get off the floor. Come on, you'll catch a cold." You know. He's like, wait, "What was that?" He's like, "Well, what a man loves is." He's like, no. Before that, he's like, "Oh, you'll catch a cold." He's like, "Ah,
you're a genius."
Genius. He's like, what? And so he develops a virus off his Windows 1995 laptop. Mm-hmm. There's a lot wrong on that. On that. There's a lot wrong on that. Windows 1995 was slow as all hell.
I remember we had a Windows 95. Like, this shit is
Windows
slow.
90, and Windows 98 was not a lot better. In fact,
we didn't get good until 2000.
I think it wasn't until Windows XP that things really started to get better. By then, everybody had a Mac.
Jesus Christ.
So, in the process of doing so, this Secretary of Defense is, again, undermining every little ability. It's all like, well, you know what, man? What else are you going to do? You tried nuking the goddamn thing. What else are you going to do? Why don't you listen to the guy who's actually trying to save your asses and try to do the fucking virus thing? Generates a virus. At first, didn't look like it went through, but then Adam Baldwin was able to get the shot off and was able to figure it out. And they come up with this brilliant plan to basically go into the alien spacecraft that is sitting, the old one, mm-hmm. and report back to Mother Base. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that if they destroy Mother Base, then the rest of these things will come down. Mm-hmm. And it was a really good idea.
And of course, Steven volunteers to pilot.
Right, of course, mm-hmm. You
know. The U.S. military, they contact surviving airborne squadrons. Now, this is where the Russell Casey thing comes into play. And I want you to take this, because I feel like you can explain this much better than I can. But around the world through Morse code, which I thought was really interesting. Like,
well, it's just another way to. It's just. I mean, it's still used even to this day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And a good example of it is like in the movie The Hunt for Red October, to communicate with the Russians, because nobody on the fucking submarine speaks Russian, and to communicate with Sean Connery, they do Morse code via the periscopes to inform what they're planning to do, and it was. So cool. Anyways.
So they use Morse code to organize a united counter offense against the aliens. Pilots are in short supply, for sure, but a lot of them are dead now. But
they can begin to round up everybody. They're like, I need all available pilots to come out here. Russell Case comes out of nowhere drunk
as shit.
Drunk as shit. He's all like, I'm a pilot. I can fly. And like the dude was kind of looking at him like,
anybody else?
Sure. Like maybe one of your kids? Like, can you teach him?
Nope,
I'm a pilot. I can fly. And the counterattack begins to start. And this may be my iconic scene because Bill Pullman has his presidential speech. And it's a good one. It's cheesy. Of course it's cheesy.
Don't just downsell it. You gotta sell that shit. You have to sell that shit.
It is, oh man, it is so cheesy. So he says the cheesiest presidential speech anybody could say.
You better sell it.
Good morning. Good morning. In less than an hour, aircrafts from here will join others from around the world, and you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Mankind. That word should have a new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interests. Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July and you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win today, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as a day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into that fight, into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day, bitch! Yo! Let's get lit!
It's like everybody's got drunk, nigga.
Oh. Get annihilated, get fucked up.
Like, y'all got drunk?
It was supposed to be a barbecue.
We're fighting today. Oh,
shit.
My bad.
Oh, my bad.
My bad. I thought that was tomorrow. I'm sorry.
And this was so cool because, of course, Bill Pullman which we didn't really say his backstory, but he was a former U.S. Air Force pilot.
Yep. So he has experience behind.
So he totally has experience flying. He doesn't really give a shit about politics. At the end of the day, he's all like, he like looks at Robert Loggia. He's all like, I belong in the air. It's like, okay,
well, have a good one. I'm not going.
And so, in this process, because we all know that the alien people are going to come down to basically attack, and David and Captain Hiller, make the way up to this alien spacecraft, and it's cool. Like this thing opens up. It opens up basically the garbage chute right. to let these guys in, and they are flying for a good while. Keep in mind, once again, it's supposed to take a day to get to the moon, and these guys get there in the next cutscene, so it doesn't matter. But they get there. By the way, in the process, Stephen Hiller and Veronica A. Fox, Jasmine, get married. Mm-hmm. David and his old girl, shack up together again.
Basically back together.
Right. So that's fine. Mm-hmm. And they go and they basically get to what's supposed to be the main terminal with what I can only assume is either A, alien overlord, or B, the dude who was in the one alien who had the day shift that day. Because he looks no different than everybody else. But, they lock in and they begin to start the process of this virus. And meanwhile, the counterattack begins. And they shoot. And Eagle One, who's the president, shoots a missile and it hits a shield.
Right.
And you're like, fuck, really? This movie's been on for 2 hours?
We haven't broken through this shit yet. Damn.
And instead, they said, wait a minute, sir, I want to give it another shot. And goes in and fires, and it fucking hits. And it hits beautifully. And then all the fucking aliens pour out.
Oh, no. You're downplaying it. When I tell you, all the homies came out. All the homies came out.
It was the block next over. It was 3 cities away.
Oh, you want problems.
You want to catch these hands. Let's go.
You really want to fight. Okay, let's do it.
And I mean, it's insane. Everybody just starts piling through. Meanwhile, back up in space, they're having a little bit of problems. They're trying to get away. And suddenly their visor that opens up their windshield opens up and they decide to hide. Now, not sure if the alien saw them. Sure did seem like he saw them.
I mean, it's a pretty wide visor, so I would assume they were seen.
Right. And so this huge fight kind of begins, and it's just going back and forth. Meanwhile, these aliens are like coming in and they fucking come out of nowhere and they start attacking the fucking base. Mm-hmm. Because of course everybody is still parked out there. Why would they let them into all their secrets?
Duh.
But they're able to upload the virus successfully, right? And they decide to go ahead and deploy this nuclear weapon onto the motherboard ship.
Right.
Meanwhile, down below, everybody's running out of ammo. And everybody's running out of ammo. And
you wanted this fight. You wanted to fight.
and the laser begins to like open up and it's getting ready to set, and light everybody's asses up.
Right.
And it's such a cool scene to kind of see because, this movie in so many ways is exhausting, but at the same time, it's satisfying. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's huge. Go ahead.
Now, so this is where Russell...
I'm going to let you play up this ending here.
Russell... will he get my bad guy award? I'm not sure. But, so as it prepares to fire on the base, Russell has one last missile to spare to shoot up at the mothership.
It's me, Russell Case, sir. I told you guys I wouldn't let you down.
Who the fuck are you? All right. He ran. Okay, so but he has that one last missile. Everybody else is out of ammo. He has one missile left. But when the fire control on the missile fails, he has problems. But I'm telling you,
and I mean the drama is playing up at this point. If you're saying in the
fuck!
theater, you're like, come on, something has to come through.
So now this is when he gets his comeuppance, and it's a bittersweet moment, but it's definitely a moment because up until this point, he's told a story about how he had been kidnapped by aliens, sodomized, and yada yada yada.
Yeah. They did stuff to him,
right?
Sexually.
So what they do is, what he does, he shows a picture of the kids, right?
Right. He has a picture of the kids right there, and he's all like, "Tell my boys that I love them."
Right.
So, but fuck the daughter, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm not sure if you mind anyway.
Actually, I think he said, "Tell my kids that."
Tell my kids I love them. So as he's going up, and he takes off the mask, he goes, "Hey boys, I'm back!" And he holds it all the way up.
He has this speech, like right before, he's like, "All right, you alien assholes, in the words of my generation, up yours!" And I'm like, yes, you're speaking for every white guy right now.
Oh, he didn't say I'm back. He said up yours.
No, he said up yours. And then as he approaches up to the top, he's like, "Hello, boys, I'm back!" And then boom.
So, causing the chain reaction to destroy the entire ship. And then the human resistance forces around the world are informed of the alien saucer's weak point and successfully destroy the others. You're fucking welcome.
Right. In the final process, up top, up in space, nobody has heard from them for a little while. Mm-hmm. The nuke has been launched, and I mean, it's 1 minute and 30 seconds for them to get the fuck out of there.
Right.
Again, 1/4 the size of the moon, people.
Takes a day to get up there.
Takes you 10 minutes to get up. I mean, they haul assing. Not only they haul assing, but they were able to make it basically at the last moment. Mm. And in the process, the nuke blows up, and it blows up the entire alien spaceship.
Mothership, yeah.
Now, a couple of things about this. The saucers are above what? The rest of the population. So where are they going when they get destroyed?
Where do they land?
They land on top of whatever population they're on top of at that point. Area 51 should be destroyed and everybody there should be dead.
And it's definitely more than one saucer. Some are falling in the ocean, some falling in Africa.
The world is fucked.
But you know what? Just for time's sake, we'll skip over it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
We'll skip over that thinking.
So they return back to Area 51 unharmed, reunited with their families. They accompany the president and his daughter, and pretty much watching the ship blow.
Right. And you know what? Will Smith has a good line here because he tells his kid as he's holding him in his arm, he's like, "Didn't I promise you fireworks?" I was like, bro.
I mean, I get it. I just didn't need it. Well, that's Independence Day.
It's such an amazing movie.
It really is. Let's kick this puppy off. Who's gonna get that guy work?
It's gonna go to the tag team in both Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum. Mm-hmm. It's hard to kind of give it to one or the other because Goldblum is the genius behind all the plans. Smith is the attitude behind all the plans.
Right.
You know, it took the combined works of both of them to basically make it work.
That chicken work.
This is not easy. Because in some ways, after she gets rescued, Vivica A. Fox has no more point to this movie.
None.
At the same time, there's also not really a point to Goldblum's love interest either.
Right. It's a boys' club when you think about it.
It's a boys' club movie, which is, again, 1990s. Still, we're figuring out a way to get women involved. I will give it to Vivica A. Fox because hey, at least she somehow survived the impossible, mm-hmm. and with the dog, of course,
Boomer.
And loved the dog apparently so much that there were no problems there, and was able to nearly save the president's wife.
That full of work.
I got to give it to the Secretary of State because everything that he was trying to do was not helpful. Like there was no plan that he had coming out. It was like he was still worried about the president's political career. It's like, motherfucker, the planet's dying. like, get with the program here. Who cares about ratings? CNN doesn't exist right now. Fox News isn't around anymore. You know, because they got blown up in New York.
Yeah, they were. They're not fucking worried about this right now. I'm trying to get out.
What are they going to report? What are they going to report? There's fucking aliens everywhere. There's aliens everywhere, and I hate everything, you know, and this world sucks, you know, and that's what they're going to report. But this guy,
in case you're curious, I did leave.
This guy was undermining everything. He was so set and determined that a nuclear weapon was going to stop these things. And when he was proven wrong, he was all like, well, I'm out of ideas. And when another idea came around the table, because it wasn't his idea, like it was just like, oh, Mr. President, it can't possibly work. It's like, fuck you. People are dying there, boomer.
I'm telling you, shit on you, man. All right.
Damn it, Scott, figure it out.
Cut that out.
There isn't really anything I would cut out. The movie is 2.5 hours long and it's tight. And it does give a kind of a new look. In some ways, I would actually cut out some of the side characters, like Vivica A. Fox's friend. Okay, like you do nothing. You're not really a needed character. And the same thing with Jeff Goldblum's buddy. You know, again, you're not really needed. You're just you're cannon fodder.
Oh, David.
You know, David. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not so much that I didn't like the characters. It's just they were added scenes that if you cut them out, you wouldn't miss them.
An iconic scene?
When the alien laser blows up the White House. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because we knew that there was danger coming. We didn't know how bad it was going to be. So for these motherfuckers to basically come up into my backyard and pointing a gun to my face, and there was nothing I can do to stop them, and them firing, no problem, and just basically saying, you are powerless against me, until Windows 95 figured out a way to
get us XP. Who knows? Even XP had problems, but it was just like, oh man, okay.
Again, this movie doesn't have the best logic to it, but I don't care. It's amazing.
It's fun.
But yeah, that's my iconic. Hey man, who's getting your That Guy Award?
That Guy Award, I'm gonna steal yours. I'm gonna have it as a tag team with Stephen Hiller and David. Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith. Like you said, Will Smith is the bronze of the operation, while Goldblum is the brains of the operation, and they work very well together. And I also like the fact that even though they've known each other for a short amount of time, they do kind of build a bit of a bond, including being at Steven's wedding before they decide to go up in space.
Right.
It kind of bums you out because we didn't mention anything about the sequel to this movie. And the fact that Goldblum is in the sequel to this movie and there is no Stephen Hiller because they killed him off.
Right. And they're so... Why make the movie?
It at least leaves you curious, like, if Will Smith did agree to do the second one, what the hell would it have been?
There was... I don't see how there was a logical way to make a second.
So they come back. What you're saying? Okay.
Right? Oh, okay. Great. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me know that. Who's gonna do that chick award?
That chick award is gonna go to Jasmine Vivica A. Fox because one, she's really the only real chick in here that you kind of follow, except for David's girl. But at the same time, I love how they played her as yes, she's a stripper, but after the attack, she became a hero.
Right. Hold on. There's a sequence that she has with the president's wife, and she's like, "Oh, what did you do before?"
I'm a dancer.
Ballet. She's all like, "No, exotic." She's like, "Oh."
And I also love the fact
I'm sorry. She's like, "Don't be. It's good money." I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
And that supports you, single moms.
I shake my ass. No, I also love the fact that she had to. Her comes in a way because as she's doing her little bit, her stripping bit, nobody's paying attention. They're all watching the news.
Right.
I was like, oh, so there's no point even really being on stage. They're all watching the news. They're not looking at you.
Right. I would have laughed so hard if she would have actually came down and just like sat down next to him and started watching.
What the fuck is going on?
Oh, what's going on here?
Yeah. So, yeah. Jasmine.
That Fool.
That Fool award, it was going to go to Dr. Oken, but I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with
Secretary
of State because he's just a weasel.
He is a weasel.
Because while you're going against everything that we're suggesting, you, sir, have absolutely no plan to suggest. So shut up.
Yeah, well, I kept expecting him to say, what if it doesn't work? We don't know.
We haven't tried it yet.
We don't know. Maybe it does work. Maybe it doesn't. We're just figuring shit out. Millions have died in one day, sir.
What if you're just a weasel?
One day.
What if you're just a weasel?
One day. Shanghai is gone now. You can't get no Chinese food. One day.
Yep.
Cut that out.
I'm going to go with, and I don't really want to cut it out because it does kind of intertwine and it does relate back to the finale with Russell Casey. This shit with him and his kids, man. I could do without the kids. Honestly,
really?
It's weird because, in my opinion, it doesn't necessarily push the movie forward. It's just a side character with his own little side story. But at the same time, can that same side character, which is interesting for what we're working on now, but can that same side character exist without that kid's part being in it and just be him with his backstory about he's dealt with aliens before? He's just a drunk.
Well, but you need something redeemable about him.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm kind of struggling with this cut it out because you need that.
If you just found out this dude was a drunk that got sodomized by aliens, you don't feel sorry for him. You're like, oh, he dies. Well, at least he has some peace now.
Well, let's just say he's a drunk, but he only became a drunk because of what happened, because he was sodomized by the aliens. And in that way, he lost his job, he lost his respect, So the comeuppance of that is to sacrifice himself to save the day. That would have at least pushed the movie forward for me, without really have to deal with the kids.
But it also, I guess I kind of disagree with you, and this is weird because this is your cut that out. I think you needed the kids to kind of make it seem like, hey, like if he didn't have this, there's a good chance he probably doesn't even survive the first wave. Right. It wouldn't have made sense for him to survive, because it's all like, well, we gotta get the hell out of here. And then, but you know who else is exactly like that? Woody Harrelson in 2012.
No, he has a bit more substance to him.
No.
You don't think so?
No. That dude was also out of his mind.
Nah,
he was out of his mind. And at the end of the day, what did he want to do? He just wanted to, yeah, man, it's totally cool. Sacrifice ourselves. And he dies. And it's just like, oh, I remember Russell Casey because he's at least a redeemable person that saves the world.
And plus, it sounds like a diet Keanu
I
Reeves.
can't remember Woody Harrelson's character's name.
What are you doing? I don't know. If that was the case, then I would probably need more of to really kind of pinpoint what's the relationship between Russell Casey and his kids.
And I can get down with that.
Mm-hmm.
And iconic scene.
I don't want to take yours because you took mine, bastard. I am going to go with
that speech.
Has to be that speech. It has to be the speech because this was a spoof. Honestly,
it was solely a spoof speech.
If it was a spoof,
this was a speech that for a fact was taken from 5 fucking different movies.
Has to be because if this was a comedy, like a full blown comedy, the next thing had to be just a crazy rave and everybody's getting crazy drunk and shit. But yes, it pumps you up. That speech is definitely one of the more iconic speeches ever really said in movies. And even it's a ripoff of various speeches.
Right.
But the fact that we get to that last line that today we celebrate our Independence Day. And it's almost like the whole crowd goes, fuck yeah! I'm pumped for that. You know what I'm saying? Even though it would have been hilarious if the very next scene, we're all just getting raved, getting shit faced.
Right, getting shit faced. The aliens come up and just fire anyway. Oh, right.
I forgot.
Shit, that was today.
That was today. I'm sorry. All right, so takeaways. We're trying quick hits. I'm getting I'm going back.
Mixed signals.
Quick hits. According to producer, co-writer Dean Devlin, the U.S. military had agreed to support the film by allowing the crew to film at military bases, consulting the actors who have military roles, etc. However, after learning of the Area 51 references in the script, they withdrew their support.
Oh, absolutely. Because they knew it was true.
So you know this is really going on. At around 1 hour and 7 minutes into the movie, the scene in which Will Smith drags the unconscious alien across the desert was filmed on the salt flats near Great Salt Lake in Utah. Smith's line, "And what the hell is that smell?" was unscripted. Great Salt Lake is home to tiny crustaceans called brine shrimp.
Yeah.
When they die, the bodies sink to the bottom of the lake, which isn't very deep, and decompose. When the wind kicks up just right, the bottom mud is disturbed, and the smell of millions of decaying brine shrimp can be very, very bad. Apparently, nobody warned Will Smith.
That's so gross.
So when he says, "What the hell is that smell?" he really wants to know, what the fuck is that smell? Dean Devlin said that most of the dialogue in the scenes Jeff Goldblum shared with Judd Hirsch and Will Smith was improvised.
I could see that.
All right. Director Roland Emmerich was notified one day that Robert Loggia was very upset and refusing to leave his trailer. Several days earlier, producer Dean Devlin accidentally suggested to Loggia that he watch Airplane from 1980 for inspiration when he actually intended to suggest Airport of 1970. Not familiar with either film, Loggia rented Airplane and after watching it had thought that he had unknowingly been participating in the production of a spoof movie. Oh, shit. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
Imagine pissing off Robert Loggia.
Imagine pissing off an actor because you tricked them into casting it as a spoof movie.
Give them the wrong movie. Oh my god!
Did you even know Tom Cruise? Who didn't know he was in that film till like 3 years?
Like 3 years later. Come on, yeah. All right. At around 2 hours and 10 minutes, Jeff Goldblum uses one of his lines from Jurassic Park in this film. "Must go faster, must go faster." It's delivered with the same intensity. Coming up, let me see. The film was banned in Lebanon under pressure from Hezbollah because it included scenes where Israeli and Iraqi soldiers joined forces. In the montage where militaries around the world signed on to the U.S. plan to counteract the alien forces, for the last few decades, Lebanon officially boycotts any form of entertainment that features Israelis. All right. Shot in 72 days, an unusually short period of time for such a big blockbuster. That is a quick.
That is pretty good. Yeah.
All right. And last but not least, okay, cool. I like this one. The abbreviation ID4 was invented due to legal problems with the title Independence Day. Before 20th Century Fox reached a deal with Warner Brothers for the rights to the title, they suggested the film be called Invasion or Sky on Fire, among many other titles.
Yeah, no. Independence Day is too good of a title.
Sky on Fire?
Sky on Fire. No. Oh, God. That just sounds awful.
Well, that's Independence Day, ladies and gentlemen. 23 years old.
And the first movie of the Super Throwback
September. Yeah. So we're back with another one next week. This was a good one.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
This was a good one. We made no real mention of Independence Day 2. We don't really need to.
There's nothing.
We'll just
there's
act
nothing
like it never
redeemable
happened.
about it.
Well, I like it like it never happened. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Danger Neff. Where can they find you?
You can always find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at David Danger Neff. I'm the co-host here at Back to the Classic, and it is hot as a motherfucker.
It really is.
I'm the co-host here at Back to the Classics. We obviously have opened this up for Beat Studios. Once again, if you're interested into getting into podcasting, video editing, video podcasts, whatever, holler at us. We are more than welcome to quote you a price and to give you an idea. You can also check us out at beatnetworkonline.com. My partner in crime, Jay Alonzo. where can they find you?
You can find me on all the social media simply at I am Jay Alonzo. That's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. You talk to me and I'll talk back. Of course, the Back to the Classics Movie Talk group on Facebook. Back to the Classics A Movie Talk group is jumping right now. Go ahead and jump on the side. A lot of people are really starting to jump on there and really kind of throw some stuff out there.
Yeah,
including
so.
Los, which I think is really cool that Los is really getting more involved. As well as follow the show on Instagram at BTTC Podcast, as well as on Twitter at BTTC Podcast. We got some stuff coming up, man. We cannot wait to announce more stuff. Shout out to Hollywood Kev, who was supposed to be with us today. But unfortunately couldn't make it last minute, but we love that guy anyway. Always part of the family. Said it, didn't say it, said it. We're done.
I think you're good.
With that being said, super throwback to the classics. We'll be back with you guys next week with another super throwback, making the 90s feel more 90s than you ever felt before. More 90s on 90s, 90s.
I love it.
With that being said, amazing. I am Jay Alonzo. With me, of course, is
Danger Neff.
We out here, y'all. See you next week.
Peace.